Norm Macdonald. Wow. I don't know if this guy is just really dumb or just really crazy or what his deal is. I think Norm Macdonald's great. I think he's hilarious. But man, did he really, really... Okay. I made a video a few days ago on my main channel about how Norm Macdonald was canceled from The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon because he was critical of the Me Too movement, but not even really that critical. And the argument I made was that Me Too had kind of gone too far. Because, look, it's one thing when you have Chris Hardwick, who is, he was removed from his show over he wasn't even named in any allegations. It was an unnamed allegation against him. A lot of people said that these stories weren't true. The accusations against him for abuse from his ex-girlfriend weren't true. Ultimately got his show back. So Norm Macdonald says, man, it's kind of crazy, that he got the blunt end of the stick on this one. He didn't do anything wrong, and that's Me Too going too far. But now he went to issue an apology, and on the Howard Stern show, he said that you would have to have Down syndrome to not feel for the victims. And that's why I'm saying I don't know if Norm is just a little just not good at apologizing. I don't know if it was on purpose. A lot of people were saying that the reason he did it was that he was trying to make fun of political correctness by using a specific term for a mental, a mental deficiency. But he did go on The View and apologize for it. So let's read this Huffington Post story. It says, Norm Macdonald says he used Down syndrome to describe stupidity in a PC way, which it certainly is not. The comedian dug himself into an even deeper hole while trying to clarify his offensive statement about people with Down syndrome on The View. You know what's really funny? Before I read the story, Norm Macdonald went on The View to talk about not one controversial statement, the Me Too statement, but also his Down syndrome statement, and The View had him on. The View. Jimmy Fallon canceled on him because he was critical of the Me Too movement, but even after this, even after using Down syndrome in that statement, The View was still willing to have him on. Wow. That's really great, Tonight Show. You're being upstaged by The View. Unsurprising. Norm Macdonald may want to consider the fine art of shut the fuck up. Oof. The 58-year-old comedian dug himself into an even deeper hole on The View Thursday when he attempted to clarify his comment Wednesday to Howard Stern that you'd have to have Down syndrome to not feel sorry for victims of sexual abuse. There used to be a word we would all say to mean stupid that we don't say anymore, right? Macdonald explained on The View. He added, and stupidly, I was about to say that word and stopped and said, what's the right word to say? And then I said a different word that was equally offensive. Macdonald was likely trying to avoid saying the word retarded. It's a dehumanizing word that Special Olympics and Best Buddies International consider hate speech. According to their joint campaign, Spread the Word to End the Word, it only reinforces painful stereotypes of people with intellectual disabilities being less valued members of humanity, which is absolutely insane. Look, I'm not a linguist, I don't know the history, but I read on the internet, so take it for what it's worth, that originally people would say invalid, and then someone said, hey, that's offensive, why don't you call them a retard? Like retard as in too slow. And now apparently that's offensive. No matter what you say, no matter what word you use, it will eventually become offensive because you can say any word in a way that's going to be offensive. So they say Macdonald's comment on The View suggests he was using the term Down syndrome to the same effect. The former Saturday Night Live Weekend Update anchor has had quite a week in terms of sticking his foot in his mouth. Or is it on purpose? I mean, look, the guy's trying to generate PR, press, for his show on Netflix, and now he's got these massive scandals. I mean, a lot of people feel like, I've seen a lot of comments, I don't want to act like there's a ton of people, but commenting that this was the point. This is what they do, they generate controversy, maybe it was all planned. On Tuesday, The Hollywood Reporter printed an interview in which Macdonald made quite a few controversial statements prompting The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon to cancel his scheduled appearance on Tuesday night. While discussing his friends Louis C.K. and Roseanne Barr, whose careers have been marred by the sexual misconduct and racist remarks, respectively, Macdonald told THR that there are very few people that have gone through what they have, losing everything in a day. Of course, people will go, what about the victims? But you know what? The victims didn't have to go through that, Macdonald said. Many believe Macdonald was suggesting the backlash to Barr and Louis C.K. was worse than sexual abuse itself. Prior to his statement, Macdonald had also spoken at length to The Hollywood Reporter about the Me Too movement and Chris Hardwick, whose ex-girlfriend accused him of sexual assault, expressing sympathy for Hardwick. After posting an apology on Twitter, Macdonald went on Stern's radio show to clarify his interview. He made the matters worse when he said, Down syndrome. But I want to point out, I think sexual abuse is extremely bad. In terms of crimes against other people, it's up there. I mean, as Law and Order SVU put it, we find crimes of a sexual nature to be especially heinous. But just because sexual crimes are especially heinous doesn't mean there can't be things that are not sexual that are not worse. Look, Roseanne Barr didn't commit sexual abuse. She posted something that was very, very offensive that people thought was racist, and she lost everything because of it. Saying a mean thing to somebody, even if it's the meanest thing in the world, is probably not nearly as bad as having your show canceled or, for the most part canceled, losing everything, your job, your friends, being attacked in the press by basically everyone, having even the people who like to abandon you over this stuff. Yes, Louis C.K.'s different. Louis C.K. apparently was whacking off in front of women, and I don't know a whole lot about what happened, so I don't want to get into it, but at least when Norm Macdonald's talking about Roseanne, it's strange that, no matter what happens to Roseanne, no matter what she experiences, because she said mean things, that is the worst possible thing. No, I think what happened to Roseanne was substantially more stressful and painful than what she actually did. I'm sure Valerie Jarrett, for the most part, was mildly upset over the thing that Roseanne posted, but it probably pales in comparison to having your career evaporate. You know what I mean? And look, that's Roseanne's fault. She did it. She said something dumb, and she paid the price for that. But I'm just saying, I do think she probably wants something substantially worse. Is that hard to say? Is that wrong? So Macdonald explained in The View that he told the reporter about having Louis C.K. call Barr after she was fired from ABC because they both experienced massive public backlash. According to Macdonald, the reporter then asked him, "What about the victims?" And I said, "Well, the victims haven't gone through this. I was talking about this particular event," he said. "Of course the victims have gone through worse than that, but I'm going to get a victim to call Roseanne? How you get Roseanne to talk to somebody about this?" "That's a good clarification," Joy Behar said. "Too bad the one about Down syndrome was not." Well, here's the thing. Norm Macdonald is in a jam, I guess. He has to come out and apologize for this stuff, and he's in a weird position because his first comments weren't even that bad. But yeah, Roseanne didn't commit sexual abuse. She just said a really offensive joke. So what? You can't be like, wow, that sucks. And what Norm Macdonald's pointing out is that, look, man, if we carry on like this, eventually someone's going to, put a gun in their mouth, something really bad. He said he's worried that someone might kill themselves. But I'm going to say this. I feel like this is all fake. I feel like it's fake. Maybe, the other night I went to a Joe Rogan show. For those that follow my work and know me, you know that there was a point where I was supposed to go on the Joe Rogan show, and then he canceled on me, and then a year later he invited me on, and then he canceled on me. And so I was just like, yo, WTF, mate. I flew out to LA to do this show. But Joe hit me up, and he apologized and just said, hey, come out to the show. And I've always been a big fan of the podcast and his stand-up. And I got to say, for one, the show was absolutely incredible. We got to sit and watch Joe's routine, and he had an opening act. I can't remember that guy's name, but it was hilarious. Joe had this really great bit about cats being psychopaths. It's a joke. But the reason I bring this up is that sitting in that room, hearing Joe Rogan make fun of Trump supporters, Hillary supporters, SJWs, men's rights act. He made fun of everybody, and it was hilarious. And I thought, if you can fill a theater, you can sell out a show, a couple thousand people, and 2 different shows in one day, and these people are willing to sit there and hear you say, he said something hilarious like, Hillary can't stand up, she can't be president. He's like, it's not a sexist thing. Look, if my mom couldn't stand up, I'd be like, Mom, you can't stand up quick enough, you can't be president. And I thought that was fascinating that he was willing to go after Hillary. I mean, look, Hillary's not even, she's not technically relevant, she's not running for office anymore. But he went after, he said something like, it must suck to be woke, just to be offended all the time at everything. And I'm like, Joe Rogan's fans are relatively like normies, for the most part. He's got a very mainstream audience. He's a Fear Factor guy, he's a UFC guy. People come out to see him, and he can make fun of everyone. I'm pretty sure some people got offended. There were some but he always plays it off like, oh, you're gonna get mad at that joke. But sitting in that room, hearing him say that, said to me, maybe in real life, outside of this bubble, it's like, I've known this, But outside of this bubble that is this weird political correct TV, social media reality, life isn't that bad. It's just not that bad. You know, people aren't that crazy. People are willing to just like kind of shrug off things and be like, yeah, you know, Trump's president, you know, I don't know, whatever, Hillary lost. But we see online all these people freaking out, saying the craziest things in the world. And I think Twitter, like Twitter especially, but a lot of these social media sites are making us go insane. Like I got out. I was sitting in this crowd of people, and I'm like, I fully expect as soon as, you know, you go partisan in one direction, people are going to freak out. Nah, Joe made fun of everybody. Well, it was hilarious. You know, he said he made fun of people. He made fun of woke people, social justice warriors. He made fun of men's rights activists. He made fun of Trump and Hillary. And then he did bits about cats and dogs. And I'm like, this is a good show. But I felt like, you know, it was a bit, you know, some of his routine was a bit George Carlin-esque, I would say, which was also really, I'm such a big fan of George Carlin, but watching his show, I was like, you know what, man? He's talking politics in a way that's like kind of outside the political sphere, the bubble. We're all on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're in this weird political bubble, and he's talking about it outside of it to like regular people. And he's a pretty lefty dude, and I'm like, if you can get people to laugh at everybody, maybe there's hope within this thing we call the culture war. But anyway, stick around. I've got another video coming up in just a few minutes.